of wild women in the deep East Texas woods. They read some good books and party with the authors and have more fun than you think they could. Wild, wicked, and free, they're the Pulpwood Queens.
Pulpwood Queens.
Wild, wicked, and free.
Hi, I'm Kathy Patrick, and we're on the road with Beauty in the Book in LA, welcoming author Janelle Brown, who's written a book called This Is Where We Live. Welcome, Janelle.
Thanks for having me.
I'm telling you, everybody always wants to know what it's like to live in Los Angeles and what it's really like behind the scenes. I am really excited about your book because we've got Claudia and Jeremy. They're a young couple who've come to LA, and he's an aspiring musician, and she is in the film industry. So those are two fascinating things, and also ones that I think most young couples could relate to. They have the big dream, they want the big house and everything that comes with it.
Yeah, I think the book in a lot of ways is about the moment in time in your 30s when your idea of who you were going to be in your life catches up with the person who you really are.
Exactly.
And so you have these kind of youthful fantasies about fame and fortune and the world as your oyster, and then reality descends, and what does that mean for you? What does it mean for the relationships that you're in, the person you're married to, the debts you've incurred? And so that's really what the book is about, is kind of that them bashing heads with each other at that moment.
It's very interesting because things go really wrong in this book, don't they?
Yeah, well, from the very first chapter, things kind of start in a downhill slide. Their house, they have a mortgage that they couldn't really afford in the first place, and then when things are problematic in their careers, they suddenly can't pay the mortgage, which has in the meantime doubled because they had an ARM loan and it ballooned, so things kind of go downhill from there.
How did you come up with the idea of this to begin with?
I was living in Los Angeles and in a very kind of artistic part of town called Silver Lake, Los Feliz area. And I was really seeing a lot of interesting stories around me of people who had kind of creative dreams and aspirations, and then as the recession hit and the economy turned, things really kind of got crazy for a lot of people that I knew. So I drew inspiration from the people around me.
How did you get into writing?
Well, I started off as a journalist. I mean, I knew I wanted to be a writer ever since I was a very young girl. I used to love to write little stories and make little books when I was very young. And after college, I pretty much went straight into careers in journalism. And while I loved journalism in a lot of ways, I felt like I really wanted space to tell real stories that were my own, not other people's. Because with journalism, you're tied to the truth, and I love fiction. I always loved to read, and I wanted to make things up. And really, I think I would have gotten in trouble with my editors if I did that. So I quit my job to write a novel.
Janelle, I not only run the largest book club in the world, I also own a hair salon bookstore. So one of the funnest things I like to do is give author makeovers. I have an idea that we're going to go do a makeover on you, and I think it's going to be very hip, very LA. So what about we go do this makeover now?
Sure, I can't wait to see what you can do for me.
Okay, Janelle, we're going to give you a very sophisticated Aoki-inspired look as from the character in your book, This Is Where We Live.
ShockwaveSound.com.
Do you have a favorite fantasy?
Right now, I fantasize about getting 12 hours of sleep in a night. Or just being able to sleep in till like 7 or 8 would be fantastic, because my daughter wakes up at 5:30 or 5:45 every morning.
Well, as a new mama, that is expected.
Yeah.
So we can see that. If you were to meet any author of your dreams, what author would that be?
You know, I'd love to meet Charles Dickens.
One of my favorites.
You know, he is such a master storyteller and such a character and such a, and also a historical figure. I think he would be very interesting to spend an hour and a couple shots of whiskey with.
ShockwaveSound.com.
And now we have the very sophisticated book character inspired from Aoki, Janelle Brown's book, This Is Where We Live. Here's our finished author makeover. Ta-da!
Ah, I like it. We're at a gallery called DIY Gallery, and this is a show by the Schultz brothers. And the reason that we're here in Echo Park is because so much of the action in my book takes place on the east side of Los Angeles. It's where Claudia and Jeremy live. And it's a very different kind of culture over here than the west side of Los Angeles, which is what you associate with Beverly Hills and Hollywood and the glitz and the glamour and the red carpets. Over here it's much more kind of bohemian and artsy, and you have a lot more young aspiring artists living over here, which is why Jeremy and Claudia live here. Now, one of the fun things about the Los Angeles art scene is that it really does run the gamut from the kind of very burgeoning up-and-coming artists in the independent world, like this gallery, DIY, do-it-yourself, to the like huge multi-million-dollar paintings at the MoCA. And it's a very vibrant art scene in Los Angeles now.
Check out the painting of the flying man. He has the paintbrush and the crown. Evidently, he's the man that inspired all of these works by the Schultz brothers here at the gallery.
Cool, very cool.
Thank you so much, Janelle. Well, thank you so much, Janelle. This has been such a pleasure to come on, kind of on the inside scene of LA. Thank you so much, Janelle.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Kathy Patrick, and I'm here with the Actors Who Read Book Club from Hollywood, California. I'd like to all have you meet our author, Janelle Brown of This Is Where We Live. Let's give her a warm welcome.
You roller coastered us quite a bit. It was great fun that way. Yeah. It was a very fun read in that aspect because of the fact that any time that I thought I knew what was going to happen, you would flip it on me. So that was great fun because I had no predictions.
I like to defy expectations. I think it's more fun if you don't know where a book's going to go. And whenever I started feeling like the book was going somewhere predictable, I would think, rethink what I was doing.
How close is the book then to your actual life?
Very close and also very far away, I think is the answer. I took the inspiration for this book from the people that I saw around me and the world that I saw around me. So I kind of took in all these stories and I mixed them all up and then created this totally new characters who are very fictional. Each book that I've written so far has evolved in pretty much the same way, which is I have the idea for a story. I have the outline of a plot. I'm like, oh, it'd be really interesting if this kind of thing happened. And I write that down on a piece of paper, and then I kind of put it aside. And then I started thinking, well, who are the people that I really want to start writing the story for? And I start writing these characters. And then I start kind of writing the story that I imagined with these characters in mind. But then, as I'm writing the story that I initially imagined, and I have these characters I developed, the story starts changing because it turns out the characters have their own stories they want to tell me. So if I went back and looked at the first plot outline that I wrote down, I'd be like, what is this? It bears very little resemblance to the book that I end up with.
A lot of what's happening in this book, the real estate crisis is the driving force behind it. And that's happening still right now. So I'm trying to figure out how you got this out so quickly.
Well, it's funny because when I began this book, the real estate crash hadn't happened yet. And I was initially imagining this book being about a couple that was buying a house together during the height of the boom. And then as I was writing it and as I was in this character development stage, the recession began to hit. And I realized very quickly I needed to write a different book. And so I was actually very much writing things as they happened.
That concludes our book club discussion with the Actors Who Read Book Club. Thank you so much, Janelle.
Thank you.
Can you name the very famous 20th century architect who built numerous homes in the Los Feliz section of LA? Go to our website to enter our Beauty in the Book giveaway. 10 people with the correct answer will be chosen at random to get a free copy of today's featured book. This is Where We Live by Janelle Brown.